here. Well, welcome back to Montana Voices Podcast. We're back in Season 3, Episode 4, and we'll start with our list of stuff. You're probably listening on the podcasting platform of your choice, iTunes, everything but Spotify. On TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, we are at Montana Voices Podcast. We like to keep that simple. And also our website, montanavoicespodcast.com. And to reach us out to us on email, we are montanavoicespodcast@gmail.com. And as always, it's great to have Squeak back.
Hello, it's good to be back, Jimmy.
Let's start with our old stuff. We'll just run through the list, and if there's anything to add, interrupt. So we talked about a film about small talk, shot entirely in Blackfeet on the Blackfoot Reservation. Those Clinton people again, which we're good. It's a repeat. We'll be on those people again later. We talked about weed as of last week. CBD was back. The Crow police force, or now defunct police force, we are remodeling our trap houses. And speaking of remodels, hedge funds are trying to buy our papers. We talked about CPS in Cascade County getting a mighty big judgment, I think $16 million for their liability in the death of a child. We talked about Corey Stapleton, which is our new thing because I don't care about copyright. We're going to start off strong with this. It's only like 10 seconds. Well, that's quite enough of that.
Oh, quite enough.
That was Corey Stapleton and the Spicy Pirates? No, Pretty Pirates.
The Pretty Pirates.
Oh, spicy means something completely different. But
Yes.
Corey Stapleton is not yet spicy, but if this new shindig doesn't work out, he very well could be a spicy accountant.
Right, or he could, try and sue you for copyright infringement. Yeah.
We are promoting his thing. That's off of his website.
All publicity is good publicity, so,
Which leads me into our next thing, those Clinton people, or actually not the Clinton people, because I had a few long drives this last week, and so I spent more time than I probably should have researching and listening to. I found some of this guy's sermon. Last week we covered the Clinton church being, the pastor being accused of hate speech. We don't know if there's any validity to those claims yet, but either way, they definitely have some sort of beef with the LGBTQ and Pride people. So they, a quick recap, school lunches over the summer, they partnered with the food bank. There was a Pride banner. They saw that, were unhappy, and decided to do the lunches on their own. Somebody accused him of hate speech. Realtors, because he's also a realtor by day, decided to, or somebody made a complaint to the Realtor Association of Missoula, and there's going to be an hearing later this month. Or actually, it might have already occurred. I haven't looked yet. So it was mid-December, somewhere around there, so I may have missed it. But
Yeah. Seems like some interesting topics that he likes to cover there.
oh, speaking of topics, so the Clinton guy brought in the Daily Gazette people, the Sidney Gideon Knox guy, who, that guy again.
Gideon Knox. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he calls himself. And I'm thinking that this should be the last time we cover this people. They are a hate group, but they appear to thrive off of attention. I listened to, they've also got a podcast. They called it Protestia, this is called Protestia. Don't watch it. They get more views when you do that. You have to get it from a defunct. Yes, protesticles. There's definitely ickles involved, I think.
Indeed. I think so.
But they really get off on people being upset with them. So I'm getting some real Westboro vibes, which is something he's quick to point out, that we should not compare them to those Westboro people, which is
Jeffree Stars of the church world.
Yes, the worst. Oh man. So I listen to. We normally both of us listen to a lot of content in preparation for our cast every week. However often we do this. It's a good thing about being self-employed. We have no schedule.
That's right. We're our own bosses.
I didn't burden you with listening to multiple sermons, as well as the Sunday sermon from the Clinton Community Church. So I listened to that sermon. I had to drive all the way from Missoula to Billings and back. So for some work stuff. So I had a lot of time with nothing to do, and this was a good enough time to do that, as well as listen to several Protestias, listen to his sermons, and they really get off on people being angry with them. And if you look at some of the things they've been accused of within some things that are in litigation, where they were harassing the native trans protester during the last legislative session.
Oh, come on.
Yes. Well, that guy has a book out. I would have to look up his name. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I actually bought it. So, and I've gotten as far as like a compilation of short stories written by natives about native experiences. And
that sounds pretty cool. You should definitely maybe link that when you. Yeah,
I'm gonna go.
If you're gonna play Corey Stapleton's music, we should definitely shout out this book.
The name is
generally
Adrian Jawort. I apologize if I'm not saying that right. So
spell it. Spell it.
Jawort. Cool. Northern Cheyenne author and journalist for the Western Native Voice, which is one of the venues that we follow for. His authorship appears to be short stories and also some short journalism. So, very short form factor, but it's the compilation book. He's been featured on Montana Public Radio.
Very good, very good. That's some good stuff.
Read his story in the last compilation book he had, but it starts out with some very, very graphic tales of domestic abuse and then divorce by Cinnamon Spears, another native author who we're familiar with because she writes children's books. So we actually have several, or I think she only has 2 out, so we've got both of them.
I got the good times and the bad.
Yes. Well, the bad times are reserved for adult. This is definitely adult reading.
Well, of course. Oh, I would hope so. I'm sure.
So they were harassing this gentleman, then they were harassing another trans person at Town Pump. They felt compelled to tell them that they will always be a man, regardless of... it's really vile stuff when you listen to him. I don't want to repeat some of the things that he said because they're awful, but I'm thinking we should not mention it again, but I will make a point that I did listen to the Clinton sermon because they published theirs online. I listened to the Sydney sermon, J.D. Hall or whatever his name is. He's cosplaying as a cowboy or something. He's got the hat and everything, but I will say he's a very compelling speaker. So he's got at least the rapport down and the cadence and tempo. So if he wasn't so awful with all these red flags, he could have a future in radio or something. In fact, I guess no one would hire him, so he made his own radio station.
Yeah. Looks like he did.
Well, and I also watched what they did publish. They published his speech.
I'm really confused now because I think am I looking at the right thing? Is this the same J.D. Hall who played Willie in Power Rangers Wild Force?
Oh, let's not sully the good names of the Power Rangers here. So...
yeah, I think this can't be the right guy.
No.
He's 74 and he's, man, that's, wow, unfortunate that this guy's tangled up with this other guy. Never dirty the name of the Power Rangers. You're right. I am not going to associate the two.
Right. J.D. Hall from the Gideon Knox group is who you're looking for. If you search J.D. Hall, Montana, it looks like African-American. Was that the voice actor for the Power Rangers?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, see? Well, and that link goes to the PowerRangersFandom.com wiki. That's not good.
Well, we have to separate these two because we don't want the innocent in...
Send only love to actor J.D. Hall of Power Rangers Wild Force fame, please.
But J.D. Hall from Sydney Baptist Fellowship, Gideon Knox, Montana Daily Gazette...
avoid that guy. Watch out for him. He's a mad guy.
Yeah, avoid him, and I wouldn't say avoid is all we should do, because these people should be ignored. They're a very small but vocal section of our, Montana, unfortunately. Just like you look at places like Whitefish that have issues with certain groups, we'll say.
Yeah.
They're a small portion of Montana, and this is not who we are. But those people
I
sort of...
hope to ignore that stuff, too. I always hoped that was enough, but sometimes that's very frustrating. It doesn't seem that that's enough sometimes. Pretend they're not there.
Pretend they're not there.
I could do that still. It'll be very comfortable to do, but sometimes you just gotta start talking about how it's a problem.
Yeah, we can have the restraint, but they really love it when you point out they're a problem. But the big news isn't gonna. As soon as these people, if they're not getting the attention they want, I fear they're gonna escalate into something else. So
exactly, it's never fun to have to deal with it, but it gets to a point you got to deal with it.
Well, let's move on to our next thing about Doreen Electra, who I am...
Oh.
You added that. I'm reading. Oh my goodness. 180
Oh
backwards.
yeah.
Hold on.
Well,
I listened to the sermon and the thing that J.D. Hall was saying at the Clinton church. The furries are sexual deviants. It's the road to trans everything. The furries are
right.
the key element that they have to fight.
Right. Well, see, this is really, really going to be trouble for him because the furries, they have made an alliance with the trans community.
Ooh, I can see why he was
Dorian
against
Electra
that.
has taken the hand of the LGBTQ community, the hand of the furries, and if it wasn't an official alliance, I think it is now.
As it should be. The furries are, I find them a little weird, but adults, you're free to do what you want.
Right?
That's
Yeah. And whatever's, oh Lord. I've met a lot of really cool, wholesome people. That there's like a whole ton of Christian furries, and I think it's, honestly, like he shouldn't be so cruel. There's a lot of very, very devout Christian furries out there for sure. So, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater or the furry out with the dog food or whatever.
whatever it is. Well, the furries, he's taken a stance against them, and this guy, he's concerned about the furries, and also the only sort of sex that he will advocate is for procreation with your Christian wife or whatever, but not on Sundays. My
So
goodness,
depressing.
not on Sundays.
Not on Sundays, never Sundays. That's the day of the Lord.
Exactly. No work is done on those days.
That's right. Gotta get down on your knees with our favorite guy. And, that's just how it goes. You gotta have one day for that.
Right, but the other 6 days
You
of the
can
week,
take that out
you're
if you
free.
want.
No, I'm
We'll go
leaving
ahead
it.
and roll that back.
No, I like where this is headed,
Well,
but
very good. Well, I'm always just taking things lightheartedly. I don't mean to diminish anybody's orientations or anybody's religious affiliations. I'm just a silly lady. What can I say?
so only for procreation, and he recommends that Christians have more children. This is his argument. They're having more children. All those liberal heathens are aborting their children. These are his words, not my own here.
God.
So if Christians do their duty and have, he suggested, up to 9 children or more, in 18 years, we would have outbred them.
Well, then why are they trying to stop? He needs to think this through. It would sound like Texas is going the opposite way of what he's going for here. So confusing. Do you want to outbreed the heathens, or don't you? Because it seems like you should, take a little less work.
Stopping the heathens from breeding. I mean,
Yeah. I guess it maybe works because it means that these Christian guys get to, do it more because they get to work twice as hard because it's the only time they get to have sex apparently. So, the more babies they're allowed to make, the better, right? Like, is that how he sweetens the deal? Is that why
I think so.
thing?
Do these people not know that you can just have sex?
Well, you really can. It's not a big deal. Some people, you gotta psych yourself out. You make it a real big deal. Sometimes you get performance anxiety. You gotta lighten up a little. Your muscles better for the blood flow. Yeah, you don't know what I'm talking.
Of course not. Well, we've taken a positive turn here, so this is
right
upwards turn. But the logic, don't try to logic them too much. I think they're assuming that if you have a bunch of children, that they're guaranteed to be conservatives, just like you or his audience. So, but that
really backfire on you sometimes.
Yeah, kids like to rebel. So.
Oh yeah, they don't even have to have a reason.
Let's, I guess, move on to our next topic, because these guys, we will report on the aftermath, but if they're making enemies of furries, there are, I think, more furries than there are people in this hate group. They're just less organized.
That is absolutely a fact. Fortunate enough to go to the largest one in the country a few years back, and yeah, there's a lot of furries, man. There's a lot. It's just, yeah, way more than the congregation he's got. I wouldn't play around with the furries.
No, they. Some of them really think they're wolves. You don't want to mess with that.
To death. Yeah, they'll love and accept you so much you won't even know what to do. It's frightening.
Well, wasn't there a furry convention or at least a gathering here in Montana? I think I recall, but then it got sidestepped the last 2 years for COVID. But
Well,
I
I
recall an
know
event.
that, oh, what is it? MistCon. That is definitely a furry-friendly event. They're all about the cosplay and all of that, all the costumes, all that fun stuff. They're definitely welcome there, and I did see a few down there when I attended that as well. I'd say that's probably the larger event locally to find a furry.
Well, they're all over. Me and you have accidentally met more than one furry just
Oh
in
yeah,
passing.
yeah. It just kind of happens sometimes.
You're like, why is this guy wearing a tail? Huh.
Let me explain.
Like, no, please don't. But that's
But you have a nice day.
yes, I accept you either way. Anyway,
Oh yeah, there's a guy I always see at the health food store. I've like seen him around for years and years. Yeah, man, same tale. Just finds his own business. Seems nice, like a nice enough guy.
huh?
They're really pretty low key. A lot of them, they just mind their own business. I don't know. I don't really understand why people get so upset about it.
I don't either. It's maybe they mind their own business because they understand that adults should be able to do as they
Whatever they
please
want.
with
Yeah.
adults.
Exactly. And you know what? It isn't, it totally isn't all sexual and weird. I mean, they're accepting. They keep, for the most part, you always got to watch out for people, especially, you got to watch out for your kids, and I think that you wouldn't send them to Comic-Con by themselves. Don't send them to the Furry Con by themselves until they're old enough to be able to do something like that. And I would say, take a little responsibility, personal responsibility for your kids too, because anything can be dangerous. Try not to make that the theme. There's all kinds of people, and it's just bad publicity. People kind of show up expecting that, I think. And sometimes those people who just show up because of the bad reputation, sometimes that's where you get the bad actors.
Right.
So there's a lot of people working hard to try and diminish public image that they're all a bunch of weird sex party people. I've met some really sweet people, very wholesome people. I've totally met some way out there weirdos too, though. So
well,
just got to use your discretion. If you go to the bar, any public place you go, there's going to be some real nut jobs.
I've met some
and
real.
You'll find them in the furry community too, but also cool people.
Met some real weirdos at church. That seems to attract a certain sect of people that are sometimes
Yeah.
not fun to be around.
I get along with the furries better than I get along with church people. I'll tell you that much.
As a church person,
get
I will
along
agree
well
with you.
I get along well with you, and I know you go to church, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Church people can be difficult. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I'm such a nerd that I feel like they speak my language and on some level. Whereas I'm always afraid to offend. Make too many jokes, or and I'm the kind of person that makes jokes when I get like uneasy or uncomfortable. It's how I try and get through things, and sometimes that really backfires for me. So sometimes it's easy to offend somebody who's religious, who thinks that is like a hell or heaven kind of deal. So they get really defensive. Furries don't get defensive like that. Some of them are sensitive. They'll just tell you how they feel, and you tell them, okay, I respect that. I'm sorry, let's be friends. And it usually works out just fine. I've been able to repair misunderstandings with furries way easier than I've ever untangled any misunderstandings with somebody I've upset for a religious reason.
Well, there's not much tolerance there, surprisingly. I
Yeah.
say that from the inside, because if you make those comments on the outs, that feels like you're attacking that group. We don't want to give them more of that persecution complex.
No.
This is constructive criticism, but
yeah, and nobody needs to take me as any kind of authority. I'm just some lady, and I make jokes, and that's it.
just some. Well, the next matter is not a joking matter. The COVID mandate has been struck down. So as of this cast, and that may change because I don't know, Austin Knudsen signed on to that, our Attorney General, challenging the Biden administration's COVID mandate that, of course, affects Montana. That's been. Did you see the protests last week? They were in Helena and Missoula. They were picked a random corner. In Great Falls, they might have chosen to be by benefice, but they're protesting the mandates and I assume the vaccines at large. So
Yeah, people are pretty enthusiastic on both sides. I hate having to. I hate when it drives a wedge between people. Really, I think that's the thing that bothers me the most. I just wish it didn't have to get to a point where people are disowning each other. Like when brother is turning against brother, etc. It's hard. It's hard stuff. It might be for really good reasons. Sometimes you just got to put your foot down. Sometimes things just get toxic and out of hand. But if they're trying, if we would say that there's a certain number of people or groups who would benefit or enjoy the idea of the damage that a civil war could do, if we let it turn brother against brother, etc., that's just pretty rough, man. You almost already have a civil war if it's tearing families apart like that, and I think we should.
Well, we're split geographically. It's not north versus south. It's I'm not even
Yeah,
sure
that makes
where
it
the
even
lines
harder.
are, because
I don't either.
where are the
'Cause
lines?
it's I think it's something that is always people should be able to talk about these things and try and learn together. Kind of talk some of these things out, because I think sometimes we can't shut out everybody's voice. They need to be heard, or this is going to keep happening. And there needs to be,
that's sort
respect,
of exactly
respect for each other.
I think that's exactly what we've done, and maybe what media has really been pushing on us. Now, I'll start with a disclaimer. I think the vaccines are safe, and you should probably consider getting one. I'm not going to tell you to get one because I'm sort of a libertarian like that. Whereas you should, but I can't tell you to do that. But
I'm currently fully vaccinated. I didn't die. I think it's all right. I haven't had any real major side effects. I felt a little sickish.
I will say that the people
really,
who do complain about the side effects of the vaccine sort of seem like they were, one, hesitant to get the vaccine in the first place, and two, were super conservative and kind of bitches. So I'm thinking one person in particular. I don't want to downplay anybody's side effects,
but I was a little paranoid too. Not gonna lie, that's why I don't even really. Sure, I was maybe a little more tired that day, but was that in my head because of all the things I've heard and seen, or scrolled past on my journeys through the internet? It does. I think that even if you don't necessarily subscribe to everything, sometimes some of this stuff can. It's almost like it just subconsciously sticks in your head, even if you're not looking for it. It echoes in your mind. You're like, wouldn't it suck if I went and got this
and then had a heart issue, or the blood clots, or the issue?
What happens if I have a stroke or whatever? And it did kind of scare me when we heard about the having a little bit of issues with the Johnson & Johnson one. That kind of alarmed me a bit. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh man, I'm a woman who takes birth control and has a higher risk of stroke in general, and I vape. I hope that something like that wouldn't happen. Even though I know it most likely won't, it does raise your baseline anxiety surrounding these things sometimes.
Absolutely, but I feels like even saying that discussing your own bias and what you thought might happen, and nothing happened.
I'm fine. Yeah, as far as I can tell, I'm good.
Even discussing it in that fashion is polarizing. It's anything that's any question to what we're doing or how we're doing it, or questioning. I don't think it's wrong to question the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. There's a very small history with that, or even the Pfizer if there's a reason to. I think asking questions leads us to the best outcome. So, but you say that, and then you get lumped in with a bunch of crazies that think there's microchips in these things and stuff.
Kind of, and all this stuff. I'm not a scientist either, so I would say that for people who are really concerned, who fall into some of those categories, maybe there's a little bit of, if it's a faith-based concern.
I'm not sure what the faith-based one.
I don't understand really. I'm gonna just say this. No offense to anybody, but if your faith in God is so strong, you think that He'll protect you from getting sick with COVID, why wouldn't He? By that same logic, why wouldn't He protect you from dying from this vaccine? I don't know. If we're gonna use that logic, then see, that's what I don't understand. Because I have in my way, I believe I've kind of given that situation to God in a sense, because if I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I don't have the money for the kinds of health benefits that a lot of people do. But I want to do the right thing in terms of keeping everybody else safe too. And I don't want to have somebody coming to my door to tell me I need to take it. Obviously, nobody likes the idea of that. I want to do the right thing. From what I can tell, the professionals seem to indicate that it's okay. But I totally respect if people are skeptical, because we have some. I'm just rambling on now with all my uncertainties about the world. But
now that we've discussed the vaccine,
I've given that to God, and now, I'm not going to die. I think I've made it through. It's going to wear off in 6 months anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, you'll need your 4th shot. I saw a news update that for the new variant, the Pfizer says we're going to need a 4th shot sooner than later. So
can we just be done? Like, I'm sorry, can we just be done? That's the feeling I have about the whole thing. I'm sure everybody else feels that way too. It's like, I don't even want to have to question it anymore. I just want to move on with my life.
Well, we sort of have, but haven't. I mean, but we've discussed vaccines and we've managed to alienate, all of our. Somehow we offended everybody, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm really good at that. Thanks for putting me on the show.
It's great to have you. Well, unless they're a Patreon subscriber, which we haven't even set up yet, because no one's a Patreon subscriber. That they have no input in. That's the voice of freedom. We're gonna put out our content, not beholden to anybody.
Yeah, that's the beauty of being able to do things at your own expense. Yes.
But without getting too far off, and I think any danger argument for the vaccine is completely bunk. Like the percentages are so low, and you're much more likely to have COVID than you are to have a adverse reaction to the vaccine. So it's not that, and I don't think it's poison. I don't think there's microchips or any of the weird, crazy things that are out there. But I am making the argument. It
may have been rushed, but that could be due to. I mean, it's an emergency, so they need to make sure that people get it as soon as possible.
Hey, say it was rushed, but we came at this with a singular focus and just dumped a whole lot of money on it. My initial reservations on it were that this should be open source. The American people paid for the development of these vaccines. So why are we paying to develop it and then pay on the back end for Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and in other places AstraZeneca to make a profit on it? So there's countries in Africa that are trying to reverse engineer the vaccine, specifically AstraZeneca, because they say they won't enforce their intellectual property. Why not just give it to them and let them make the vaccine? This new variant came out of Africa. If we open sourced it, any facility that could make the vaccine could, and that gets us closer to our goal of vaccinating the world.
And those guys, speaking of God's work, they're doing it for sure. That's the thing that I feel a great amount of resentment specifically. That's where most of my frustration comes from, is why are we going to trust the same people who gave us the opioid epidemic to take care of us after they've, profitized us at the expense of thousands of deaths, probably more than thousands of deaths.
Hundreds of thousands. I mean, untold damages.
How do we trust those guys, Why should they profit, especially after we dumped all this public money into it? I mean, sure, take care of their expenses and whatnot, but do they really need to be getting fat on our blood here?
No, and in fact,
I probably shouldn't use language like that, because
it's completely accurate. It
kind of is. It would be great if we could trust more in these institutions, and it would be great if those pharmaceutical companies couldn't be in bed with our government, making us question why all our taxpayer money is going into this. Is that really for our benefit, or are these benefits for the politicians who are then going to end up on the board of these pharmaceutical companies as soon as they leave office, and then they'll go back in again, and we'll see that revolving door continue.
Speaking of that, is it on the list? I'm not sure. Maybe it was on one of the TikTok casts. Gianforte's $700,000 pre-pandemic. This is 2016 investment into Pfizer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is that on the bottom here? But
Yeah, so he
because
probably invested in that when he was over in what is it, New Jersey?
yeah,
Yeah.
it is on the list here.
His home.
And that seems that's we'll skip that when we get to that. But 700,000 and I that's not being questioned by anybody. Where are news sources here? Because I actually had to look it up. It is on Open Secrets where you can see that reference, and I think I linked it in the thing here. But it was actually
Great website.
the great website. They're doing the Lord's work, but.
Amen.
The news didn't report on it. It wasn't in any of our papers, although our papers are just shell of a papers, as I understand. I picked this up and then had to do some work to go to Open Secrets and Google it for myself and find out the evidence. The Montana Daily Gazette people had this on their front page.
Oh, wow.
The hate group. And I think that, yeah. And we go to these sites so you don't have to, because sometimes, like the E-City Beat, this hate group over there, and groups in Whitefish, I won't name them, but we go there to see what it is they're saying, and then we will go and verify if there's any truth to it. A lot of time there isn't, but in this case there was. He invested nearly $700,000 in Pfizer, and he's up 60%. It was 2018, excuse me, not 2016. So even more reason that makes it more stark. And so how can we, if it was open source, now I will not necessarily make this argument this is the right thing to do, but this country has a history of nationalizing industry in time of great need. In World War II, we nationalized the Anaconda Company in Butte to make copper. We've nationalized trains during wartime. We've production. I think nationalized most of Ford at one point to make tanks and Jeeps. That's right. Ford made Jeeps as well for the war effort.
Oh yeah.
So for the national emergency that we're in and the national health crisis that we're in, I don't think that's unreasonable. But,
right. I would say a worldwide pandemic is it's pretty far up there on the type of situations where you would imagine that would be a thing.
We weren't even a year into this by the time that the COVID had killed more people than both world wars combined.
Right.
So it seems like
it qualifies.
Well, speaking of fighting, let's depart COVID. Like I said, we've alienated everyone somehow.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to pretend I'm a professional.
Yeah, not a epidemiologist. You have to say that, and not
absolutely not. I pretty much know nothing. I like to draw pretty pictures, so that's my qualification for talking about this.
And
so, do your own homework, make up your own mind.
Well, we must arm the children.
Indeed.
Well,
we're gonna do it.
Permitless carry on campuses was found to be unconstitutional, and Austin Knutson is appealing that because, like I said, we must arm the children.
That's right.
Yes, on campuses, talking specifically for universities, we should take it a step further. I mean, we must arm all the students. We got to level this playing field once and for all. It's the only way.
It makes it really easy to know who wants to answer a question in class. You just shoot the gun at the ceiling. Pow, pow, pow. Better not have any two-story schools. That could be pretty problematic.
Right. I don't know if this challenge will succeed. I'm thinking not. This went to the Montana Supreme Court. I guess they decided that universities, whether private or public, can make their own rules about what you can or can't have on their property. So on that extent, it sort of makes sense to me. And we did have permitless concealed carry on universities for most of a year, like 9 months, and nothing happened. Gonna sound like a gun nut. It seems like most adults are responsible, you would think, but then again, I've been to universities too, so I don't know about that.
Right.
How old is an adult?
I don't know. I feel like that's kind of in question at this point. It's more of a range of ages that people become an adult. I think that's becoming a little bit more clear now. There are some very naive 18-year-olds out there, so.
Right, some of them you wouldn't want to have a gun, but.
Yeah.
But in this country, that is all right. So, well, we back to angry tweets. We thought with the last election we were done with this, but they're back. Twitter's the source of everything nowadays, and the cast is on Twitter, but we don't do much of it other than say, hey, we have a new episode up, or occasionally retweet links that we find interesting. We're not Twittering right. It's a healthy thing?
I think, or are you Twittering right? I think that you need to ask yourself this question again.
Yeah, you don't want to get too deep into it. There are people that tweet like 100 times a day. Our old president used to do that.
It's terrible.
Like 6 a.m., you know he just woke up and is probably pooping. It's like, what? Just stop it.
Right? Yeah, I wonder what he's doing when he's doing these tweets. That's what I always wonder. It's like, what the hell? Are you like waking up from a nightmare and writing? Or it seems so disjointed. And
that's how we got Covfefe. But the gist of it, developer of Missoulian, it's a group of three, but looks like they're all out-of-state developers, a pair of brothers and a third guy, who want to develop the Missoulian building into something fancy for Missoula. And they hired MGM Group to do all the permits and the planning on that. And so the three investors, they backed out because one of the owners said mean things to people online. He posted, and it was on Instagram, and then it leaked over. So I called it tweets, but it was on Instagram. So
it was on Instagram.
Yeah, mixing it all.
Yeah, I didn't see the actual offending.
It was taken down.
Statements. Did you get any screen caps? Where is it? Did anybody archive this?
I've failed at this. So,
well, I don't even know if I should be offended or not then.
Well, I don't think you should, because the gist of it is he posted it was like a 3D rendering of what the Missoulian will look like. And as an outside investor looking to invest in Montana, some people don't take too kindly to that. And so we're calling him out, saying he's ruining it, and then we're threatening to shoot him at the Missoulian. And he was legitimately getting threatened by people.
I think at that point it's like understandable if you're like, excuse me, people, you're being unreasonable. I think it would be could even go further than that. That's really, really frustrating when you get death threats for just trying to do your freaking job.
Right. I don't want to paint the guy as a saint. Like I said, he's an investor. He's looking to make money and put money into this to make it. Because right now it sits mostly empty. Like the Missoulian has, 3 reporters or something? And they're going to move to like a rental space somewhere. So the building was sold last year. Liminal? Yes. Less. Well, that's... just like the Tribune building in Great Falls, and just like the Billings Gazette building or any newspaper, these were the prime pride things. The Great Falls one, big windows overlooking the river, you can see the big tower thing. Same thing in Missoula, the big windows overlooking the river. It's right in the heart of Missoula, so expensive real estate. There's 2 different walking paths and bike paths that go through it. It's a very nice building, or could be a nice building. But, of course, the Missoulian is a shell of its former self, and like I said, has 3 whole reporters now. And
yeah, it's all ghostly and stuff.
Yeah, so it sits empty just like the Tribune and Gazette buildings. The guy was putting a lot of money in to develop it into I guess it was going to be part rental and then part light business. There'd be a cafe and a central area, but he had a concept video. And like I said, I don't want to paint him as a saint, but that seems to be something with a net benefit to the community, I think. What do people expect to happen to the Missoulian building?
Yeah, it looked like they were trying to make it kind of nice for the community rather than just a place for just this business.
Right, and business not utilizing it
nice.
And getting closer to split level every day because they're not utilizing it. So
yeah, it's not like they're gonna pave over somebody's mama's ranch or something. I don't understand what could be so upsetting about it, really. But
well, with the rental prices and property prices in Missoula, people are just upset about outside investors doing anything in Missoula, even though these people appear to be, of course, they're investors, so they're acting for profit, but also that aligns with, I think, potentially some of the best interests of Missoula.
Well, yeah, and there's also, is it just me? I'm pretty sure there's several startups and, isn't there going to be some Amazon facilities and whatnot over there? And I would say if you're going to allow them to come in and whatnot, you should expect them to be contributing to the community in a meaningful way, trying to, even if it's just beautifying an area that's a little bit neglected or
and
could be used more appropriately. I think that would be a great thing. I think maybe people are looking at it a little bit backwards sometimes, but I mean, I understand that there's probably points to be made. I can't even really argue since I haven't seen these offensive tweets.
The responses were sort of in line with, I guess, my opinions on it. He basically made some comments. I'm gonna crush you with my wallet, stuff like that. That was unsafe. Probably true, stuff like that, and it accused people of not being doers. And he's like, "Why don't you sit down, like, while professionals like me figure out how to improve this building?" And like I said, I don't want to paint him in the positive light. He later apologized, said he should have taken the high road, and he should have.
Well, at least he apologized. I did see that, so I mean, I was like, well, how bad could it be? You know, I mean, he at least apologized. Usually, when somebody really says something messed up, they won't apologize.
Well, bad enough that the planners from MGM pulled out of it, and so now there's not really a. They need to hire a different company. Currently, it's sitting doing nothing, and
it's just literally an empty place for bums to urinate and poop. Hey, at least it's not on the trail. Hey guys, there's a new place to go. Stay off the trail.
Yeah,
go
please.
To the warehouse. It's unoccupied. There won't be anybody in there for a while. So go have some fun.
So that's too bad that came to that, because I would like to see something good happening with the Missoulian, and it's in such. I
think so.
Almost a nature area, so it's. Like, if the building wasn't there would never be a building, because it's not quite a conservancy, but the town probably wouldn't like that. So
kind of a park area.
Yeah, a park, and like having premium businesses there, or their business, and then some condo rental units or whatever. It sounds like something that would have been great, but apparently it's not in the cards anymore as of now, but that's, of course, apt to change.
It's safer than a completely empty building. Have a little bit of life in the area, a little bit of reason for people to be there, so it doesn't end up like...
Waterworks in Great Falls, Public Drug in Great Falls, any number of Butte buildings.
Yes.
Butte's a different animal. We talked last week about why stagnant properties are sitting in some places, and in Great Falls, who knows, maybe the Public Drug people, or they didn't own it, but whoever owned the building, they just leased from it, and it burnt down 15 years ago, just about. Yeah, a long time ago, and it's been unused and half burnt since.
Huh, well, jeez. Kind of an eyesore. I mean, I'm not the kind of person that usually says that, because it's like, you know, sometimes eyesores are people's houses and you need to mind your own dang business. But yeah, half-burned buildings, you know, I'm sure that could be improved upon.
Well, yeah, or anything, or bulldoze it, but of course that costs money, and it sounds like nobody has the money to do that. But anyway.
Well, hopefully something's done about it before, you know, it becomes a hazard. Somebody who might be foolish enough to try and keep worm in there or something. That would suck.
Get on the path to universal health care with the VA, which... Yes, there's a new VA facility in Miles City. So as we expand these sort of things, and I was sort of feeling like with Medicare expansion, which was Bullock's big platform, and he got Medicare expansions through twice during his tenure. Could have had another one, but we elected some other guy. But but that seems to be the road towards a more Canadian-like system, it feels like. But at the same time, the VA... I've never been to the VA, so I couldn't tell you, but I have heard complaints. Tester's been angry about it. He did the thing where he looks over the top of his glasses and yells at somebody. And I'm feeling like the VA is something that that's a debt that we owe. So that's not something we should skimp on.
Yeah, right. And we couldn't even necessarily compare it to universal health care in the sense that these people were made a promise. They sacrificed their health for our country. And if we can't keep our promises to the people who fight our wars, it's not very honorable.
No, and we couldn't even keep our promises to the 9/11 first responders until, it took Jon Stewart coming out to do anything about that. So,
and they wonder why people don't trust that they're going to be looked out for in this country. You wonder why. You know, people could lose their frickin' legs. They could go get their nuts blown off for this country and get diddly frickin' squat and end up lonely, traumatized, and in terrible health without any assistance and waiting months to get care. That, to me, is a sin.
I couldn't tell you firsthand how that experience is, but I've heard both traumatic and also heard that they're getting a lot better by adding new facilities and new services. So this is, the model of the VA, if we can get that to succeed, could look like a model for universal health care in the country, potentially, if we can get that working right. which we haven't, because it feels like there's a percentage of the country that wants to make government not work. Like, government doesn't work, and we'll prove it.
Yeah, so. Well, if it's going to exist, it needs to work. You guys don't seem to understand that you're trying to you guys will still have government. It will just freaking suck because nobody's going to let go of the influence and power of government. Like, that's not, it's not going to go anywhere. Somebody will always be calling the shots, so we might as well make it work, right? Like, I have never understood that. I've never understood that. I see it so much.
Right. The failures are everywhere. And I'm actually really thrilled that they're doing it's an actual dedicated VA facility. And there's several of them around the state. I think there's a big one in Helena. I think Great Falls has a smaller clinic office and some others around. I don't know the locations off the top of my head. But I'm thrilled that that's the way that's being taken care of in a dedicated manner, because a lot of these issues that these vets are experiencing are issues that you're not going to encounter in regular practice. I mean, is your regular doctor going to know how to handle the after effects of Agent Orange from Vietnam? So,
no, guy who had that too, and man, the poor guy. Like, I feel very, very strongly after having met that person. I feel very strongly about this stuff.
The federal government said Agent Orange didn't exist until, I think, the early 2000s, and so these people were entirely untreated for that.
Yeah, it's so sick. Like, that's such like further trauma to being further traumatizing from being suffering an injury, to be gaslit, tried to have people try and manipulate you that it didn't happen or that you're crazy. That's, I mean, that sounds like an abusive relationship to me. I think we shouldn't have abusive relationships with our soldiers who trust to do their best for our country.
Right, we put so much on these guys,
Russia
men
wants
and women.
To offer somebody better treatment than your own country.
But I'm glad they're getting those dedicated facilities instead of, I know the VA has done this in the past where they outsource to private practitioners, and in some cases that makes sense. However, in a lot of cases it doesn't. Private regulation and the private, incentive, when we get to a Medicare model where we're simply just paying private providers for Medicare, that skews the market, in my opinion. Also believe that the free market works. It works for itself, we'll say that, but it also works as far as getting economies and scales and prices, whatever. But when you get the government in that, like with Medicare being the huge buying force that it is, negotiates prices, that adversely affects the market for everybody else. We got off the trail there. Let's get something more Montaning. We've already discussed Greg Gianforte's investments in them pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. I just want to say that again. So I didn't.
Yeah, let's remind people that Greg Gianforte has invested nearly $700K in Pfizer.
Well, and let's move on to delisting the Grizzlies from the Endangered Species Act. So
yes, the bears.
Yeah, we're gonna tie this back into Greg. He's he's every man with wolves. He got got a wolf last year, I believe. And he got the tagged wolf. It had the radio collar on it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's just really got to demonstrate his masculinity here. He's all hopped up on that Pfizer and
all that
crazy. He's gonna kill all the bears.
I know people that are very anti-wolf, very anti-wolf. There are some people that are just like, oh, wolf's interesting, but there are people that are like fervently.
Oh, I've seen the bumper stickers, man. There's some very passionate people around here. Like, I understand, you feel passionately about a topic. Maybe you get a sticker, but like 5 plus all your NRA stickers, like, dude, you need to see out the back of your truck. Your hate is obscuring your vision, like literally at this point. You need to just calm down a little bit. While you're driving, you probably shouldn't be shooting any wolves. So why don't we just stop thinking about that so hard? Right
Smoke
now?
A pack a day, as they say. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe put your stickers on your gun. Like, why do they need? Are you driving into the forest in your truck trying to mow them down? This your wolf killing mobile? I don't get that.
They are. We have wolf tags, and I know people that get wolves and also eat them, which I thought was weird because they're too close to dog for me.
Oh, that's one I have never heard. Jeez, that sounds really.
Yep, they eat them, and
man, I suppose that sounds pretty Montana.
Hoofed animals.
Yeah. Only here, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, if they eat your deer, they eat deer, and they eat. Well, I mean, if they eat your livestock, I suppose you're just getting back what you put in.
Well, speaking of livestock, Montana has a program. If your livestock are killed by a wolf, they will actually pay you for that livestock.
Yep, same thing with grizzlies.
Really? Grizzlies too?
Yeah. And it sounds like you can get paid commercial price for them.
Huh.
So it's hopefully you're not losing money. You might actually, be okay because you're probably going to get the. I'm not sure what the exact percentages are, but it sounds like you can recover your costs if you're lucky. There's enough funding given to that. And I think that's something that we're going to need to do because we've got our grizzly bears population up to where the Endangered Species Act agreement wants us to be federally. If we are going to take that over again, the number of bears should stay the same if we're capable of maintaining this at the healthy levels that we're supposed to. If we're to maintain that, we're still going to see the same number of missing cattle that we're seeing right now, and that's gone up. And apparently, we have to share a lot of that money, all over the state. There's a limit to it, and I think rather than trying to, wrestle these bears and grizzlies and go out and protect them ourselves, why don't we just, skip wrestling with bears and just try and save our cows, try and make sure these guys are paid for those losses, because they're going to keep happening, unfortunately. And that's our responsibility to up that amount to be able to cover those. Because before, it might have been better for ranchers in some ways, but you're still going to have a lot of losses. You're going to continue to have these losses.
The people that are really fervent about both these animals, wolves and grizzlies, are, farmers are such a small percentage of the population, very, very small. And I forget the figures. Was it like $100 million that Montana paid out for wolf losses?
I think that it's like tripled.
Oof. So
the past few years, as we've succeeded in these goals. So part of it is that. I also think that we also want to make sure that those funds are being well managed too, and that of course we would want to make sure that there's nobody committing fraud there.
Right, and there's, I think, space for that.
That could be very unfair to people who have legitimate claims, and that would be my concern there.
Right, and how do you price an animal? If a dairy cow that's getting close to its slaughter date is, I think you would pay close to what they would get at the meat plant rather than the price of a new adult cow,
like a brand new one. Yeah, like a skinny one.
So I don't know how they figure that out, but it's like I said, farmers are such a small part of that. And going back historically, threats of predators have always been an issue for farmers, whether it be coyotes or wolves or bears or those little fox things and etc.
Chupacabra.
Yes, lots of danger in that, and that risk has always been taken on by the farmers. But since we relisted wolves, who were, by the way, historically here, we handled that and then brought them back. We eradicated them, brought them back.
Yeah.
So it seems like this whole program
struggle a little more with it.
Yeah, well, they're struggling, and there's always been struggling because, historically, if you were a homesteader, that was a threat that you had to deal with, and yes,
you just had to deal with that by yourself at that time.
Right, you had to go fight the bear, get your muzzle loader, and
not good. Wrestling bears, unless you're really into that kind of thing,
No,
Anyways.
Bears are friends, not food.
Friends, not food.
Although I've had bear before, a black bear, long time ago. I don't remember
jerky.
it.
Somebody make bear jerky?
They did have some jerky. They had some bear, hamburger. I guess you wouldn't really call it a hamburger then, just beef. So, anyway, I don't remember it either way, so couldn't tell you.
Would it be like, instead of beef, would it be like bearf?
Yeah,
it's a bear.
A bear for burger.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. I had to say that.
But paying them out in this program has been sort of a concession to the anti-wolf people, which, by the way, were historically here. And I don't want to say that they should take on that risk themselves, and certainly there's livestock or insurance could cover that, but it seems like the government is trying to take on the risk that the business should be taking on. Which
yes, and if we're going to be, it needs to be, because it's you guys can't. It would feel unfair to them at this point to to continue to let these high costs and not everybody being covered for these losses. I mean, basically, it's just to save the state money,
right?
Rather than continue to provide this benefit to offset these federal programs that are causing changes to the environment where these guys have to try and raise their livestock.
And there has been changes, but the people that advocate for all say it's for the best.
Job, unfortunately, that is, if I were to, say it comes with the job. Deal with it, but it's very very, very good that it's very generous of the state to be doing this for them, and it's a heck of a lot cooler than letting people go go wrestle them bears.
Go defend your flock. You have a good dog for that, but I've seen some terrible
risk my bear. I mean my dog. Well, jeez, I'd never risk my bear or my dog. I'd try to keep my bears and my dogs safe.
But well, looks like that is all we have on our list today. Unless did I miss anything other than Greg Gianforte investing $700,000 into Pfizer in 2018? Did we cover that?
Oh yeah, no. What was it again? What did he invest in?
That was in Pfizer specifically. Pfizer stock.
Pfizer stock.
Which you can find on Open Secrets. And once again, only the hate group reports on this. They're trying to wrestle with, one, their love for Greg Gianforte, and two, his positive attitude on the vaccine. Not mandates, but he said he's gotten it, and he says you should get it too. So they're trying to manage the love-hate there with Greg Gianforte. It feels like. That's why they reported on it. They're like, he was just doing it for the money, so it's all right. I think that's what they're going for.
Maybe they should just talk it out over a nice, tall, frosty needle full of COVID vaccine.
Can you drink that?
Who knows? I don't know. You probably bust it open on the table, like a liquor bottle or something.
Well, let's
slurp it out of there. Show it's power move, alpha move, man.
Absolutely.
You think I'm afraid of your vaccine?
Chug it.
What do you think of that, huh? Your vaccine can't kill me.
Well,
the New World Order is never going to kill me. And we're going to overthrow the Illuminati. Give me all your COVID vaccines. I'll drink all of them.
Super side note here, but McMasterCard, the Harbor Freight of Canada, seems to think that they can make a breathalyzer vaccine.
Whoa.
I know. They're flying too close to the sun.
Breathe it in?
Yeah, just like an inhaler, it looks like.
Well, that's bizarre.
How bizarre. But let's put this episode of Montana Voices Podcast in the books here. We are, of course, on MontanaVoicesPodcast.com. You can listen to all of our episodes there. To contact us, we're MontanaVoicesPodcast@gmail.com. We have all the social medias, the TikToks, the Twitter, the YouTube, Facebook. We are simply at Montana Voices Podcast.